Why does it feel like one salary is no longer enough in the United States? Millions of Americans ask this question every day. People work full-time, often more than 40 hours a week. They follow the rules, pay their taxes, and try to make responsible decisions. Yet saving money feels nearly impossible. Many feel like they are falling behind, no matter how hard they work. This isn't because Americans suddenly became lazy or bad with money, and it isn't simply about budgeting mistakes. The real reason is much deeper. The structure of the American economy has changed in ways that make it harder than ever for a single income to support a normal life. To understand why one salary is no longer enough, we first need to look at how things used to work. Not long ago, a single income could support an entire household. One person working full-time could pay the rent or mortgage, cover groceries, afford healthcare, own a car, and still save money. Families could raise children, buy a home, and plan for retirement on one paycheck. This wasn't a fantasy. It was normal for millions of Americans throughout much of the 20th century. That version of the American dream was built on a specific economic balance. Wages grew steadily. Housing was affordable. Healthcare costs were manageable. Education was cheaper. Debt was limited. Most importantly, incomes and living costs moved together. That balance no longer exists. Over the past several decades, the cost of living in the United States has risen dramatically. Housing is the most obvious example. Rent and home prices have increased far faster than wages. In many cities, rent alone now consumes 40 to 50% of a person's income. For some, it's even more. When housing takes up half of your paycheck, there is very little left for anything else. And housing is only the beginning. Food prices have steadily increased. Groceries that once felt affordable now require careful planning. Eating out has become a luxury rather than a convenience. Gas prices fluctuate but trend upward over time. Utilities such as electricity, water, and heating cost more every year. Internet and phone service, once optional, are now basic necessities for work and daily life. Healthcare costs have exploded. Even people with insurance face high premiums, deductibles, and out-of-pocket expenses. A single medical emergency can wipe out months or even years of savings. Many Americans delay medical care not because they don't need it, but because they can't afford it. Transportation adds another layer of cost. Cars are more expensive. Repairs cost more. Insurance premiums rise. Public transportation is limited or unreliable in many areas, forcing people to rely on personal vehicles just to get to work. Education, once a path to stability, has become a major financial burden. Student loan debt affects millions of Americans, reducing their ability to save, buy homes, or invest in the future. What was once seen as an investment now often feels like a lifelong financial weight. All of these costs add up quickly, but while expenses have risen rapidly, wages have not kept pace. This gap between wages and living costs is the core of the problem. Inflation steadily increases prices across the economy. Over time, the purchasing power of money declines. If wages don't rise at the same rate as prices, workers effectively earn less, even if their paycheck number is higher than before. Many Americans have seen small raises over the years, but those raises often fail to match inflation. When healthcare, housing, food, and transportation rise faster than income, people fall behind without realizing it. They work just as hard, but their money goes less far. This is why saving money feels so difficult. Savings are not built from what you earn, but from what remains after expenses. When nearly every dollar goes toward basic survival, there is nothing left to save. As a result, financial stress becomes constant. Unexpected expenses feel overwhelming. A car repair, a medical bill, or a temporary loss of income can quickly turn into a crisis. The margin for error disappears. To cope with this reality, many Americans turn to debt. Credit cards are used not for luxury purchases, but for groceries, gas, and rent. Student loans delay financial independence. Car loans stretch longer and grow larger. Buy now pay later services turn everyday spending into monthly obligations. Debt has become a tool for survival rather than a choice. Living paycheck to paycheck is no longer a sign of poor money management. It is the default reality for a large portion of the population. This debt cycle traps people. Interest payments reduce future income. Minimum payments delay progress. Even when someone earns more, their debt grows alongside their income. The system keeps people treading water instead of moving forward. Because of this pressure, the idea of a single-income household has quietly disappeared. Today, two incomes are often required just to maintain a basic standard of living. Dual-income households are no longer about extra comfort or luxury. They are about survival. Even then, many families still struggle to save, invest, or plan for the future. When both adults must work full-time, other costs increase. Childcare becomes expensive. Time becomes scarce. Stress levels rise. Work-life balance disappears. And yet, despite all this effort, financial security remains elusive. For younger generations, the situation feels even more difficult. Homeownership is delayed or abandoned altogether. Marriage and children are postponed due to financial uncertainty. Retirement feels distant and uncertain. The idea of getting ahead feels replaced by the fear of falling behind. This leads to an important realization. Struggling financially is not a personal failure. Millions of Americans feel shame about money. They blame themselves for not saving enough, not investing earlier, or not making the right choices. But the truth is that the economic rules have changed. The system now demands more work for less security. Productivity has increased, but the rewards have not been shared evenly. Corporate profits have grown, while wages for many workers have stagnated. The cost of basic life has increased, while financial safety nets have weakened. Understanding this doesn't solve the problem overnight, but it does remove misplaced guilt. It shifts the focus from personal blame to economic awareness. One salary is no longer enough in the United States, not because people stopped working hard, but because the cost of living rose faster than wages. The balance that once supported single-income households no longer exists. This is the new economic reality, and understanding this reality is the first step toward making smarter financial decisions, asking better questions, and rethinking what financial success truly means in modern America.